So now I'm going to get on to the good stuff. And what we're going to look at now is skin softening. Now this is probably a little bit more long-winded than some of the stuff you'll find on YouTube or from books and things like that. So a lot of them will just use the Gaussian blur, or they'll use surface blur or something, and they'll just use that and then they'll paint over the skin. A lot of the techniques, I personally feel, makes the skin look cartoony, especially if you start throwing in white eyes and pure white teeth, and just it doesn't look right to me. I want to keep an image looking natural. I want to keep her looking like this. I don't want to change her too much, and I want the skin to look real. I want it to be soft, but I want it to look real at the same time. And this technique, and again this one's from Calvin Hollywood, to me is the best skin softening technique I have found so far. So the first thing we want to do is create a new layer, and we want to have that new layer so we can work on the image as it stands just now. So here we need to, it's a bit long, so we want to use Alt, Control, Shift and E if you're on a PC, and if you're on a Mac, I don't have a clue because I don't use it. So now we've got this new layer, which is basically, if I start switching off underneath, you can notice there's not really any change to it whatsoever, because this is basically copied all the layers into one. Now we talk about working non-destructively, and you'll see shortly how this is still working non-destructively and how these still vary everything. So the first thing that we need to do is change our layer mode, and we're going to change it to vivid light, and then using Control and I, I'm going to invert that, and we'll have this really lovely image with lots of really funky colors. So from here we're going to be doing a lot of work using different filters, so we need to make sure that we can use more than one filter on the layer. So we convert it first of all to convert for smart filters. I said all that's going to allow me to do, I need to use two filter techniques, and it lets me add each one on here, and will also allow me to go back and vary either one at any stage. So to start off with, we're going to add the blur, but we're not going to use blur. We're going to use a high pass. Now normally high pass would add some detail, bit of sharpness, all that kind of shebang. Because we've inverted it, it's going to do the reverse. It's going to add a blur to it. So we'll high pass, and you can see we're getting the image back, and it's blurred. Now you can play around with your pixels to get the different blur that you want, but I usually stick to about 20.5 in that region. So we'll OK that, and then what we want to do, because I like my skin to look realistic, I'm going to bring out some of the natural skin using basically a tool that's going to bring out more detail. So normally that would be the high pass, but we've used that to blur. So what we're going to do is a reverse, and I'm going to use a Gaussian blur, however it's pronounced. I'm not trying to say that I know anything at all about how it's pronounced. So if we take that up a bit, you'll see if you take it all the way up, you get all the detail coming back through. You don't want all the detail. Let's take it to 10. So that's still adding enough blur, so we'll OK that. Now bear in mind, as I said, I can go back in and adjust these at any stage if I'm not happy. So the next stage of this is to double click on the layer one. If I'm going to rename that first, I'm going to rename this skin softening, and then I'm going to double click on the area, and it comes up with our blending options. And the only thing we're going to focus with is this top bar. So starting with the black end, you need to hold down your Alt key or the Mac equivalent, click on the black, and you see it splits in two, and we're just going to drag that across. And then the same with the white, hold down Alt, split it in two, and drag that across, and we'll OK that. So that's everything set up. We are now in a position where if I zoom in on the skin, we've gone from there to a little bit of a softening. So we'll zoom back out. So the next step is to add in a mask, and we'll invert that because all we're wanting to do is focus on the skin. Now I'm going to start with the face. Brush tool. Now my opacity I'm going to set to 60, and we're basically going to treat it like you're a makeup artist, and we're just going to paint or dab all over the face. Now if you need more in a specific area, then just paint a little bit more. Now sometimes when you're doing this, it doesn't come through as noticeable straight away, but when you click off the image and then back on it again, it comes through very quickly and shows you how much it's actually changed. So we'll just do that now. So there's before, and you see that it's a subtle change, but again, I'm not wanting to do too much with it. Let me just take the opacity up to 80. I generally tend to use a higher opacity when I'm going to be working on the main body. Now the good thing with this technique, as you'll see in a moment, is if you don't think it's been blurred enough, then you can go back in and start messing with the layers. So let me just open this up a bit more. And a moment's silence while I concentrate on what I'm doing. I'm not too worried about it being 100% perfect because we're obviously doing this as a tutorial, but I'd like to show you as a good outcome rather than just, ooh, look at this, I've made mistakes. Down on this arm. Now I'm probably not going to need to do the whole arm areas. I'm just being very rough here. And I'm not going to bother with the fingers just now. Right, so I'm going to stay on the arms. So as I was saying before, you can then readjust it if you're not happy. So what we'll do, if we go into the Gaussian blur that we had, and we will drop the pixels down to 5, 4.9, something like that. So that takes us from there, so you can see some of the smaller blemishes here, more of the pixeling here on the, well, the hair standing out, should I say. As soon as we click it, it softens it right down. And for me, that's good. I like the fact that it looks real, I like the fact that it's still softer than what it was, and you know, this is what I'm looking for when I'm doing any image. I want to have it look as real as possible. So that's my skin softening. As I said, not my own technique. It has been picked up from Calvin Hollywood, so I'd highly recommend that you look at any of his work. In my opinion, he's probably one of the best Photoshop editors that's around. Some of the techniques he has are just brilliant. So check him out, and we'll move on to the next stage.